talk a lot, including today, about how the border wouldn't be such a big deal if Congress would have just passed your immigration bill on day one. Who was in charge of Congress on day one?
So it's been 3 years. It's been three whole years. More than 3 years. More than 1,000 days. And look, this is a difficult issue, obviously. This is a difficult issue. And what we have said is that Congress has to act, right? Congress, Democrats, Republicans have to act. But in those 3 years, it is true that Republicans have gotten in the way. They just have, Peter. They have consistently used immigration, the immigration system, the broken system, as a political stunt. That's what they've done.
With the president saying today that the border is not secure and Secretary Mayorkas saying under oath to Congress that it is.
Here's what I will say. Secretary Mayorkas has done everything that he can do and to deal with what's going on at the border and to deal with the broken immigrations, to the point where he was part of this negotiation process that we saw the Senate go through. The president has confidence in the secretary, and I think that's what matters.
The president said last month that there was a crisis at the border. I know the White House is calling on members of Congress to, I think in your words, to put policy above politics. In the absence of that, though, is the president evaluating any executive actions that he could take on his own to address that crisis? Is he looking at perhaps a menu of things like, maybe a state of emergency or new policies that he can act on his own?
We have a bipartisan agreement that the Senate put forth. Republicans and Democrats came together. There's actually a piece of legislation. Text came out on Sunday. Folks have been working on that for 2 months. And it is the toughest and the fairest piece of legislation that we've seen in decades. There is something out there, right there in Congress, for them to answer those questions that you just asked me. The immigration system has been broken for decades, and it's a long past time we fix it. There is a border that exists right now in front of congressional members, in front of senators, and in front of House members. Right there.
Can you talk about the actual consequences at the border itself if this bipartisan agreement doesn't proceed, and is it the administration's position that if it doesn't pass, that the border is not secure from national?
So, I mean, look, this is stuff that the president has talked about before. I mean, look, there are challenges at the border. You all report that. We see that. It gets overwhelmed at the border. So this is why the first day of his administration, the president put forth a comprehensive immigration policy, because he wanted to deal with that. That was his first piece of legislation. That was the first piece of legislation that the president put forward. So obviously, this has been an issue, not just the last 3 years of this administration, but for decades, including the last administration, for decades. So we leaned in, we worked with the Senate for this bipartisan agreement, and it shouldn't be, and what we're seeing now, and you heard directly from the president, obviously, is politics. Politics getting in the way. And Americans see this. They want us to deal with this issue. And the majority of Americans do.